There's some other mysteries that we still have to figure out. How do you get three of these things lined up like this? Is it random, or is it is it still a serial impact, but there's only three? We're pretty sure that the rest of the features across the 8 or 9, 10 structures across what has become known as the 38th parallel structures, are they really impacts? Only three of them are. And so we have this three that are still lined up. The trouble is we can't figure out what the ages are exactly on the other two. But there's a few clues. It's like following bird, crumbs if you're a bird. It's like a lot of times the evidence is just gone. And so we don't know for sure, but we're fairly confident in saying that they're not the same age. So if they're not the same age, the serial impact hypothesis is out. So what likely is the case, we think, is two of them may be related to one another. Maybe Crooked Creek, maybe Decaturville were a binary impact, but for sure Wobblo was not. Now the evidence comes from two things. One of them is the age at Wobblo we know very precisely because we have fossils, we have paleomagnetic data that support an idea that this thing is actually Middle Mississippian in age, roughly 330, 335 million years old. We have also evidence that this impact is not along the same line as the other two. We think it came from the southwest, and the rationale for that is because we have these two circles. Most of the time when we have an impact, it leaves behind this calling card that's circular. Even if it came in from a 45-degree angle, it's like having an explosion there. And so usually it leaves behind something circular. Well, these are circles, but at the same time, they're offset from one another. And the geology there is so interesting in a way that there's one layer, it's maybe 4 feet thick, that it's made out of clay. And it's like, I don't know if you've ever watched like a dog chasing a ball and he hits the rug and then slides out. Rocks can do that too. Rocks can slide, rocks can get folded. And so this is one in which the impact hit and then it blasted everything out laterally. It hit at such a low angle that it kind of forced everything out laterally. So we see a lot of things that are really uncommon in impact structures. The trajectory is one argument. The other argument is based on the evidence of what kind of rocks we see. So some of the rocks that were actually incorporated into these breccias from some of the other impacts, they include rocks that are no longer there. And so when it hit, there were rocks of Silurian age. In Wobblo, there were rocks of Devonian age, which you don't see them locally there. But there must have been sinkholes and things like that. We think that the age of Wobblo is definitely separate from the age of the other two impacts. Well, the larger part of the impact is 12 miles across. The actual main impact area and roughly the size of the crater would have been about 5, 6 miles across. We think that the object that hit was probably somewhere 450, 500 yards across. So you're looking at something that's about twice the size of the St. Louis Arch, right? So the arch is pretty big, right? And so, but if you can imagine two of those in a big giant round ball of material striking us from outer space, that's what would have hit. The impactor itself would have had a shock wave going through it as well. And so the whole thing would have deformed and essentially vaporized right there. It was just too much energy, and that's when you get the explosion. So the explosion would have gone off, and with the explosion you would have, shallow tsunami, probably going out maybe 50 miles, something like that. Not very far because it's not very deep water at the time, but it would have blasted things out into the surrounding counties if the counties were there at the time.